Joining me for the conversation throughout today is Claire Pearsall. She's a former Conservative government advisor. Thank you once again for joining us. I'm a little rant at the beginning of the show because I'm genuine. I mean, I've been ranting at home ever since Sir Keir Starmer went on the telly. I didn't actually tweet for a little bit because I didn't want to write anything that I should go too far. But I mean, it is utterly outrageous that the Prime Minister has laid out conditions on what Israel, a democratic state that is our ally, should do before they. If there were to be no recognition of a Palestinian state, but no conditions on Hamas. I mean, let's just go through basically what he said, because the ultimatum, he said the catastrophic failure to supply aid to Gaza meant we see starving babies, children too weak to stand, images that will stay with us for a lifetime. Like, again, it's not about you. It's not about your feelings, Keir. It's about the reality. He says the UK would recognise a Palestinian state unless Israel reached a ceasefire, committed itself to a two-state solution, which we know Netanyahu's not in favour of, and made clear it would not annex the occupied West Bank. We know Israel's opposition to those terms. It basically means it's almost inevitable we will see a Palestinian state recognised. But not only did he not put any conditions on Hamas as a result, as a part of this, even his they haven't added to them since. The Cabinet Minister Heidi Alexander was on the media round today, and she said we also expect, we want Hamas to return the hostages, free the hostages, agree to a ceasefire, and accept that they will have no future running any in Gaza in the future. I mean, but they're not going to agree to do any of that, and yet they could still get a Palestinian state. Is Benjamin Netanyahu right when he wrote on X yesterday, a jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. And he said this actually harms the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. Is Netanyahu right?
I think on this he is absolutely right. And I've criticised a lot of the actions that he has taken because I think that you need to look at the behaviour of Netanyahu's government. But it doesn't mean that Hamas can be allowed to get away with being a terrorist
organisation. I hold no candle for Netanyahu, and I don't agree with a lot of the things that have happened on the West Bank.
No, but this, I think he is absolutely spot on, because what happens over there does have an impact over here in the coming months.
Well, we are seeing that, are we not, in terms of how it's affecting our foreign policy? This pro-Gaza stance. Is this about? Look, it's not. We know this isn't about helping anybody, any child suffering in Gaza right now, because it's not going to do a single thing to make any difference there. But is this more about virtue signalling and gesture politics to sort of play nice on the world stage and get oh well done from his lot, or is this actually about political posturing and basically appeasing his own Labour backbenchers, who, by the way, the hard left, a lot of the ones who pontificate on this, a lot of those who, and even in his own party, in his own constituency, Wes tweeting his health secretary, he himself facing losing his seat in Islington because of the sort of the hard left, the pro-Gaza obsessed people in his own constituency, that actually it's not going to be enough to please them either.
It never will be, unless you start letting in Palestinian refugees into the country, which is a really bad idea.
You think you've seen protests now? Good luck with that one.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, those kind of people who would support that action are exactly the same people who are living in the places like Islington, and they think it's all very, very simple. So Starmer is playing to that crowd, he is playing to his backbenchers and Emmanuel Macron. Yeah. No one else really gets a look in. It doesn't matter what anybody else says to him. It doesn't matter what opinion is out there. Yeah. That's all he takes on board.
One of the things I don't get is the people who are very much pro-Palestinian refugees being out in asylum seekers being able to come here. And we've got a case of a family of 6, I mentioned on the show yesterday, who are basically appealing, and a judge in the courts has basically said to the government, you need to rethink this. They've got some distant relative, I don't know, a second cousin or someone living in England. So they want a right to come here because they say their life is intolerable in Gaza. Well, that's 2 million people, right? So if we open the floor, that's one case, that sets a precedent. 2 million people could come here. I don't understand, when Donald Trump says we're going to move those people to other countries, or they should move to countries, that is an outrageous act of ethnic cleansing and an abomination and a war crime. But if, say, those 2 million people said, oh, we'd like to come and live in England, that'll be fine. Now, I get there's a difference between choosing it and being forced, but it's either your homeland and you want to live in it, or it isn't, right?
Yeah, and that's the attitude that you find, is that there will be those who genuinely have a link to the United Kingdom, but I think they're going to be very, very small in number.
Knowing that, I don't care. I literally don't care if you've got a link to the United Kingdom. I don't care. It's irrelevant.
I also don't think that the UK should change its policy just based on some scant information coming out that they may or may not have a relative over here. I'm sorry, I don't buy any of this.
I just don't even know why it's relevant. I really, really don't. It's just not our job.
Look at the neighbouring countries, and you have to look at why Egypt are not taking people across their border.
And bearing in mind that Egypt is run by the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're nutters too.
Yeah,
they really, really are. By the way, good news. Hawaii's tsunami evacuation has, in the last couple of moments, been lifted. Residents have been told it is safe to return to previously evacuated areas, which is very, very good news. We had spoken a few moments ago to Dr. David Whitehouse, who's an earthquake expert, about actually it did look like that this wasn't quite the fears of a huge tsunami after that huge 8.8 mega thrust earthquake. I love that mega thrust earthquake. Never heard that term before. But we learn something new on the show every day. That looks like we're not going to be seeing the devastation of tsunamis. So fingers crossed that holds. In terms of where this goes, though, so let's say, OK, Israel have basically put two fingers back up quite rightly at Keir Starmer. There may or may not be a rift with the US, but I think Donald Trump is keeping quiet on this stuff. But that's it. He's been as staunchly in favour of Israel as anyone could be. Israel's going to carry on doing what they have to do. The BBC and everyone else is going to carry on, pointing the finger at Israel, claiming it's all their fault. And believing every single bit of Hamas propaganda about the number of deaths. 60,000 people have died. It's a tragedy. Well, at least 20,000 plus of those were Hamas fighters. I think that's a bloody good thing. Every single Hamas terrorist who's been blown to smithereens is a jolly good thing. And I'm happy to have a glass of champers tonight to celebrate that news. But there we are. Bizarre the way these things are greeted. But in terms of how this plays out, so before the United Nations meeting, we're going to get this announcement. We've recognised the state of Palestine. What happens then?
But nothing happens.
Brilliant. So we're just going to show just how utterly pointless both France and Britain are as the only two G7 members who will be recognising.
Nothing's going to change.
Just embarrassing.
There's no incentive for Hamas to even start looking at any kind of ceasefire or
why would you?
Leaving hostages.
They're winning this.
Well, of course they are.
Yeah.
They put out their own numbers, as you say. The Hamas-run health ministry put out their own numbers of people who are dead, dying, and ill, and we have to take that as gospel. Well, I'm sorry, but we can't get in there to verify. And this is where Israel needs to play their part to allow international journalists. I know.
I still think if you get those journalists in, I think for the ones who are going, I don't think we're going to get anything more sound in terms of reporting when Jeremy Bowen's in Gaza or not. Frankly, I think
sensible journalists.
I think he's utterly beholden at the moment. Let's talk about stuff going on back home, because again, this does have an impact on us back home. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu was saying about the Islamist jihad issue, and we've got ongoing issues of the asylum hotels, and who are these people, and rapes and goodness knows what. We have the Rotherham grooming gangs. And again, of people from largely Pakistan, coming from a small part of Pakistan, a completely backward medieval society. I'm very much of the view that maybe we really shouldn't be taking anybody from these sort of countries, because I'm really not sure that they understand any of our values or our way of life. And certainly those thousands of men who've been taking part in those grooming gangs and all. But the 5 victims have come forward to talk publicly, where other people have said this, and this is something I've been hearing for a very long time. And Maggie Oliver, who left Greater Manchester Police to basically be the whistleblower on this issue, has been a fantastic campaigner on this issue. She has certainly spoken about this. But these grooming gang victims saying, they were actually abused not just by the grooming gangs, but by the police as well, who were meant to help them. One being repeatedly raped, but basically said, look, if you complain about me, I'm just going to send you back to the grooming gangs, where they basically hold you captive. So. But this doesn't come as a surprise.
No, it doesn't.
And this is why you can't have the police or the local councils doing these investigations. Why you need that independent public inquiry.
And which is what we're not getting. And we've been promised the independent inquiry for such a long time. And successive governments have covered this up, have ignored the evidence right in front of their noses. And it's appalling. And my heart goes out to those victims. They really do. You think that a police officer is there to protect you, and they are the ones abusing you, saying, if you don't behave, I'll just send you back to the other bad person around the corner.
It's just extraordinary. And again, there'll be other people who knew it was going on. That is the reality. As in all of these cases, we need names and we need prosecutions. I don't care. I don't care if they're 90 now. I want them slung into prison and to be treated behind bars as they should be treated. And you know exactly what I mean by that, don't you? Let's talk about other criminals. Knife crime offences in London have nearly doubled in the last decade. Only 1 in 20 muggings in London were solved last year. Guess who's been? Just guess. Just guess. Take a wild. Ironically, take a wild stab in the dark. And guess who has been the London mayor all that time? Oh, Sadiq Khan.
Yay.
Now, a lot of people don't realise, he is not just the mayor, the whole city, 10 million people. He's also the police and crime commissioner. Part of his job is to decide whether you allocate resources that he gets from central government and council tax to policing, or to, for instance, hiring some more people on 6-figure salaries to work in his PR in the Greater London Council. Oh, well, that's what he ends up doing. The GLA. He has, I mean, hundreds of staff on 6-figure salaries. It's extraordinary. But apparently we haven't got enough police officers to walk the streets, keep us safe, or even to actually go and, well, basically arrest someone and take the phone back of someone who says, my phone has been stolen, I've got to find my phone on it, I can locate it, it's in this house, I've seen the bloke coming in and out, and he's the bloke who took it from me 2 days ago. Can you go in and arrest him? Sorry, we don't have the resources. We're too busy monitoring Twitter.
And you think this is largely the problem. If they actually dealt with those kind of crimes, then people would see justice being done and get their property back, hopefully.
You'd also see a reduction in crime.
Of course you would, because people wouldn't do it if they know that there is a good proportion of them being caught for it.
No, but also, if you catch one person for one crime, it's not the first time.
Crimes.
Yeah, the guy who stole my bag last year, I mean, I'm going to guess it wasn't his first... Well, given the man who allegedly stole my bag, given that when they actually went to track him down, the police, they finally identified him, he was actually in prison already for something else, I'm pretty sure it wasn't his first offence.
Do you think he may have had a little career in that area?
I'm thinking... But this thing, we know what Rudy Giuliani did in New York all those years ago, and I lived in New York before and after, so I saw the impact. And there's lots of talk about, did other demographic changes impact the crime levels? But basically, the idea was, you jaywalk, you urinate in the street, you've got a broken tail light, you spit in the street, you're doing, you're stopping and searching. You do any of these little minor things, we are going to be there, and the police are going to take you in. And you know what? Those people were found to have drugs on them, they had knives on them, they had guns on them, they were arrested, they were taken off the street, they were prosecuted for minor crimes, and then they weren't committing the other bigger crimes, because the people who do those things, it's a funny thing that people who stab people, or people who thieve and things, amazingly don't obey other laws too. I know, we're all surprised. Wow. They do ride on the pavement and through red lights, and and they're the people who, put their feet on the seats on the train and play their music loud and threaten people. They say, would you mind awfully not imposing your music on me on the bus? I mean, these are the people. You take those sort of 50,000 people out, every city in this country would be a pleasure to live in.
And if you get them early doing those kind of crimes, then they're not going to go on to commit the rapes and the murders afterwards. Because if they always start, you would hope, but you start with those kind of crimes. In my village, you've got youths and catapults. And you think...
Is that your biggest issue in your village?
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, it is. It's a terrible issue, and we all know
problems.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be roaming
what are they
around.
catapulting?
People's houses, cars, pigeons, cats, dogs, nasty individuals. But they are around about the age of 13. So then you have the real lefty pearl-clutching mob going, well, there are any children, there's nothing they can do. What about having a youth centre open?
Oh, well, but you know what?
Arrest
if only
them.
ping pong could solve everything in this country.
Precisely. And I just think, arrest them.
Well, yeah, but exactly, short, sharp shock, terrify the living daylights out of them, give their parents a slap, the proverbial, and to actually say, do your job as... Heck, you and I both got teenagers. If we found out our kids were doing anything like that,
mine would be begging for the police to come.
I would literally be like going, Phil, run to the police station. I'll give you a 5-minute head start. Good luck getting there. 11. Old school parenting. Oh, and do you have a law-abiding kid that you like?
I do.
Me too. Isn't that weird? I wonder if there's a link. Right, we're putting the world to rights, people.